And welcome back, and we're moving into our first segment for the morning. Belize Electricity Limited, public safety tips and power line clearance safety. A lot of people don't really pay much mind to it, but it's very important. As a matter of fact, in with us to tell us all about it is Sheena Garnett, who is a Senior Public Relations Officer, Sheena Simpson, who is the Manager Distribution, and Ashton Webster, who is a Superintendent Operations South and Central Zones. Guys, good morning and welcome. It's so nice to have you in.
Good morning. Good morning.
That BL power is what we're looking forward to. And then we've got to be on the safe side.
Right.
So, you know, like I mentioned a while ago, not a lot of people take into consideration how important it is when it comes to being safety and being safe with electricity. Let's jump on into it. I think this week is, yesterday is when you started your safety week, right? All right, tell us about it.
BL is hosting its 17th annual Safety and Health Week. It started on Monday, September 24th, and should end on Friday, September 28th. And we are celebrating the Safety and Health Week under the theme BEL, creating a culture of safety and awareness for all. So during the course of the week, we have several informational sessions with our staff, and it ends with the open day for where invited schools and customers who visit our corporate headquarters compound, you know, will be invited to the open day, which we're going to have several booths there. We're partnering with several organizations such as the Audubon Society, Belize, the Environmental Society of Belize. And then of course we have our own BEL booths, which includes our personal protective equipment booth. There, the children and customers will get to experience why our line crews dress the way they dress. They're dressed and geared for safety.
Yeah.
We also will have another BEL booth there, which is our safety hazard booth, which pretty much it's an interactive, friendly booth for the children and the public, and it just teaches on different safety tips in the house, you know, power line safety, that type of thing. So it's a very full week for us.
Yeah.
And our safety week this year actually is focusing on public safety awareness with the aim to increase the awareness of prevalent life-threatening encroachment and safety hazards or practices near our power lines. Unfortunately, tragically, 2 lives were lost in 2017 because of these practices. So we feel the need to increase the awareness.
That's kind of where I wanted to jump into, so we could just start off understanding what the threats are. And my assumption would be one would be the illegal lines that people run to their homes and the dangers that they have there. Let's start off with that as one of the hazards.
Yes, we're here to discuss the unsafe practices that the public has, and to give them awareness of these practices so that they could report them to our offices. So there's the construction of buildings near proximity to our high voltage lines. There's also trees growing into the high voltage lines, and you could also see trucks driving piles and cement during construction, scaffolds, and these other equipments that are near to our power lines.
Yeah, yeah. And
So,
go ahead.
sorry, so in addition to what Sheena just mentioned, while there are many unsafe practices that we have identified, or technical or distribution department that Ashton leads sees these every single day.
Yeah.
The more prevalent one that we want to focus on or to spread that, increase the awareness, is the encroachment practices, which are objects and buildings near our power lines. Sheena and Ashton will go into that some more. And of course, you know, vegetation hazards. It's very...
Yeah. Two things that stand out to me from what you just said. One is recognizing what a high voltage line is, because, you know, a lamppost is a lamppost to most people. So how do we know the difference?
Okay, so BL has two classes of poles that it normally uses. It's a 30 feet height pole and then a 40 feet height pole. So the 40 feet height pole is normally buried about 6 feet underground, and on the top you would see a metal arm and then 3 lines passing over the top.
Okay.
So those are the high voltage lines, right? Those are the lines that it depends on what area you are. We place about 6,000 volts through them, and then other areas we do 22,000 volts, right? It just depends on the community and where exactly you are.
Yeah.
Right, so these are the ones we normally see on the highway heading up.
Yes, heading
lamp
to the
posts.
rural communities.
And
Yes.
And even in some residential communities.
Yes,
There are
yes, we
some
do.
residential.
Now, okay, so the high voltage the purpose of it is to transmit power to further distances.
Okay.
Right? Because we have on the pole some gray tanks that are transformers. The transformers normally at the bottom delivers about 120 volts to customers, to residential customers that use it in their outlets, right? So that's what you use to charge your cell phone, to power your TV, and everything else. So that can only go a distance of about 700 feet to 600 feet. We don't normally extend that line beyond that. So if we're trying to reach other communities, other areas, we need to use the high voltage line.
Yeah.
If not, we're not going to guarantee you a good service.
So the second point I'm hearing from what you're saying is looking at the encroachment and the building practices. But how does the central building authority or the local building authority fit in with the work of BL? Technically, anybody who's building, driving piles, pouring cement in an area should have some contact with the building authorities.
Well, we do have members that sit on the board there, so they all consult one another to make decisions of buildings and constructions.
Okay. So they should be the ones to flag if someone is going near a high voltage line.
Yes, but we also advise the customers that if in the event that you're not sure that you are at the adequate distance away from the power lines, you can come in. You can contact any of the load centers, any of the offices that we have. You can call our toll-free number, 0800 BL Care, or send us a message on our Facebook page, Belize Electricity Limited, so that we can go do a site visit and advise you accordingly.
Okay. Okay.
One of the things that we notice this is out there, whereby people just go and we call it steal electricity.
Yeah.
And that's a danger in itself for the fact that they don't know how what's the voltage that's coming out of there. How are we dealing with this at BL?
Well, as it relates to this unsafe practice at BEL, we have a Connecting Homes Improving Lives social program at the company where we invite those people who would want power supply to their house to come into any of our offices and apply for connection through that medium. What it does, it provides a safe source of power supply to their houses. And there's different things, of course, the application they would have to fill out. And what that does, the program itself assists these, families with a service entrance and the basic wiring to their houses. So for that, we would want to encourage them to come in and apply for the Connecting Homes Improving Lives program.
But how dangerous is it? I mean, there are two things. There's one going straight from the lamppost, but there's also where I split from somebody else's house too.
Yes, so that's the philosophy that I'm trying to get to here. So that conductor that I was describing earlier, people has a philosophy that touching it will endanger you, but even if you're at a distance, it will still endanger you, right? The electricity that passes through the wire, right, creates a magnetic field, and then therefore creates another electric field. And at that 22,000 volts, if you come within, let's say, 3 feet of that wire, you will still be in danger, right? We have cases last year, like Ms. Sheena mentioned, where a customer was doing a construction, and he was building a roof, and he passed the metal close enough to it. And
He didn't touch it?
He did. Well, and I'm not sure if he touched it or not, right? Because it's pretty much difficult to solve. But he made in contact with the electrical line, and he got electrocuted.
22,000 volts?
At 22, no, it was 6,600 volts in that era.
Wow.
Right? But however, this is something fatal, and that's what we need to spread the word of safety. Because not because you feel like, oh, the line is there, I'm not touching it,
Yeah.
means that you're safe. Right? So that's why we want you to understand that come into BL office, let us be the expert to judge whether you're at a safe distance or not. We have a standard that we follow internationally, and we use this standard to guide us, right, whether or not you're at a safe distance or not. But don't be the expert to try and measure that. We will be the one to do. We have the tools, we have the equipment, we'll do it for you. We have no problems in doing that.
So is it that people are assuming that it's safe to manipulate the wires?
I'm not sure if the public feels comfortable doing it, because some people feel as if though they're safe enough, or feel that they know enough knowledge about electricity to get away with a lot of stuff. But you know, it's a risk, and it's a risk that I'm here to say that please don't take.
But does it go beyond just setting up this type of system? I mean, we hear of electrical fires quite often. Is it a matter of regulating the electricity that comes in other words, controlling how much and perhaps posing danger beyond setting up this system?
Well, something like that for me is more of a PUC issue, because we at BL, we preach safety, and we are responsible up to the meter basically, but we have no problem teaching or guiding anyone. If you have any questions, you could come in, we're willing to help. You know, but something like that, we don't have much control over, because we can't go into your house and tell you how to wire your house safely. You know, that's something for another organization to take over.
You know, sometimes we do see low-lying lines, especially in the areas whereby people are actually doing their own thing, so to speak. Now, while we are on the safety part of things here, what are some of the things that we know, especially children playing in that area? What are some of the things that we would say are conductors that would eventually put them in harm, especially being in low-lying areas? You did mention, especially with the 6,000 volts, that this guy was actually passing by metal. That's one of them.
Okay, so people feel that, like if you go to electricity, basic electrical classes, they would say, oh, these are conductors and these are non-conductors material. Well, that's good for that level of education, but some non-conductors are actually conductors, like trees, like a wood. If it's damp enough and it makes contact with our electric lines, it will electrocute you as well, right? So
that is one of the main hazards that we're also here to highlight, vegetation and trees growing into the line. So we're advising the public to refrain from growing trees directly under the power line, because these can eventually grow up into the power line and become a hazard to yourself. Like Ms. Sheena mentioned, one of the fatalities last year. The other one is a person who was cutting tree trimming, doing his own tree trimming, and the machete came in contact with the high voltage line and he was electrocuted.
Wow.
So that is also a major hazard that we're trying to highlight.
So what should you do when you see a tree growing into a line?
Well, go ahead, Ashton.
So you could contact BL at our office, and then we have a program that we do. We do vegetation management every year. It's an annual thing that we do. We do surveys, and we identify trees, but it takes a process and it takes time. So we do the inspection and then we do the cutting thereafter, right? If in between that time we don't get to your tree, please don't attempt to cut it yourself, right? Call us and we'll be the person to do the job for you. We have the tools and we have the facilities to get it done, right? As long as it's in our power lines or near our power lines, then please contact us and we'll get it done for you. Just to give you a good example, the community is normally set up where you have roads, then you have drains, you have a piece of property that's basically utility property that we share. Yes, like almost like a buffer zone. And thereafter you have your house. We have an international standard that we follow that allows that we wouldn't want you to plant trees within 15 feet of our poles, because in some it will get to a point where it will grow into the power lines and become dangerous. especially when it comes to the hurricanes. Hurricanes, they knock down trees, and it becomes harder for us to restore, and it becomes a more difficult job for getting back power to you.
Definitely.
So if you do decide to plant trees under the lines, don't let it be a tree that would grow above 15 feet,
Yeah.
or ensure that you trim the tree at that height or below. If it goes beyond that, then you're looking at going into our LV lines, which is dangerous, right? Our low voltage line. And then thereafter, if it goes even past that low voltage line, the black wires, and it goes to the one at the very top, that's our high voltage line. So that's a definitely no-no.
Even during the regular rainy season, these could cause activation and outages in your areas when the trees come in contact with the line.
Yes. Wow.
How often do you get people reaching out to be able to have them take care of vegetation growing into the lines?
We, excuse me, we do get a decent amount of
Okay.
reports, but for us, we want to get more of these reports. We think it's important for safety reasons, and so we want to just let the viewers and the public know that if you see trees that are growing into our power lines, touching our power lines, growing under our power lines, contact us at our toll-free number 0800-235-2273 and speak with one of our customer care representatives so that this can be reported, and our experts could be the ones to deal with this situation to, rectify the tree hazard.
Wow.
Now, another very common incident that we may see are low-hanging lines. Whether a carnival just happened, I'm sure you
Yes.
guys probably had to repair a few lines. So, one, what does a person do when there's a low-hanging line, or there's a line that anyone can come in contact with? We don't know whether it's cable or whatever, but what's your advice to the public?
Go into the office and make the comment, and we have a system that we document these work orders.
Yeah.
And every request we document.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if you have an account with BEL or not. You could contact, you could go to the office, any office countrywide, or you could contact us on Facebook, or you could call us the toll-free number that Sheena mentioned, right? BEL Care, 0800 BEL Care.
In addition to what Ashton said, whenever you see any line on the ground near you, always assume it's dangerous. Don't touch it. Stay as far as you can away from it, and give BEL a call at our toll-free number. Take a picture of it, send it to our inbox us on Facebook. Let us know the street address. One thing that's very important for us is to know our poles are numbered. And we have a system where we could identify the area once we receive the pole number, and it's usually on a metal plate on the pole. So by taking a picture of that pole, or just recording that number, writing it down, and sharing that number with the customer care rep, or typing it in our inbox message, could help us identify the area faster.
Very important that you just mentioned, because a lot of the times you'll see numbers on a lamp post, and that probably is just if you see 327, that was a 327 lamp post. So we didn't know the real cause for this, the real reason for having those numbers. Besides that, one of the things that I wanted to get into for folks who actually deals with electricity, and this happens in the home, and this morning we were mentioning about having your preparedness plan in place. What are some of the things that we need standard things that we need in home to eventually to be safe when it comes to dealing with electricity?
Well, for me, I think whenever you have, I would say your breaker panels and what have you, don't attempt to do any wiring, because people like to do makeshift wiring. Like if you don't have your switches, they just peel off the switches and then touch the two wires together. That's definitely unsafe. So for me, if you have, if you know what you're doing, or if you're a licensed electrician, and I would want to use that word, if you're a licensed electrician, you know what you're doing, then keep spare parts for those. If you have breaker issues, you need us to take off the power for you, call us. And for me, because I'm also an engineer, and for me, don't practice anything you don't know. Because if you think you know, then you're really going to learn that you actually don't.
Yeah. You know, and I can imagine there are quite a number of things that you hear or know of people doing in their homes that you just say, no, you have no idea how much you're putting yourself at risk. Tell us some of those.
If you see exposed wires, like Ashton mentioned, even outside of the breaker panel or outlets that aren't functioning, don't attempt to change it yourself. Light bulbs, yes, because those are, you won't be able to see the wiring. So that is okay. You could take out a light bulb and replace that. But an outlet, don't attempt to change it. Don't put metal contacts into outlets or any breakers that are around. So the thing is, electricity cannot be seen. So I guess it gives the perception that it's not dangerous or you don't know the hazards involved, but it's a very dangerous medium.
You know, and I can recall having a conversation, it may have been with electricians, but I think it was talking about recognizing that sometimes you do have almost like a checkup, a body checkup. You have to ensure that your wiring is safe, that things aren't exposed beyond where you can see. There isn't a leak that's touching electrical. What's your advice to people in ensuring that just the wiring within their homes are safe? Like you see a constant flickering light, you say, oh, well, you know, maybe it's just a light bulb, but it might be something else.
Yeah, I would say call an electrician, and he would be the person to do an assessment. Right. For us, we do regular maintenance on our pole.
Yeah.
So for us, I would encourage anyone to call your electrician, let him do the assessment, and once he is saying that, well, the problem might be BL, we'll come and we'll investigate. We'll offer a solution for you, and we'll figure it out with the electrician.
Yeah.
Also, the toll-free numbers, we can be contacted 24/7. We have personnel on standby who can respond to trouble calls if needed.
Allow me to divert into a different form of safety. In Belize City, we have issues with crime. And one of the things that people really rely on is having well-lit streets. Talk to us about your assessments in lampposts when some area gets dark or the light flickers in or out. What can we do and what's the average response time to get that fixed?
Okay, so we have a program that we do quarterly, that we do surveys. And our survey results into lights being fixed. So it's an exercise that we do often, quarterly.
Okay.
And then if our time response is taking a bit too long for you, you can always call in, and then you provide us with the pole number or the street light number. There's always a number on the top of the light, right? That when you look up, there's a number there. So you could come in, call, or just give us the number, and then we'll deal with that for you. We'll address that issue.
Yeah.
Right. Our average response time is about 5 days.
Okay.
Right. Or less. If we have to do it quicker, then we'll get it done.
Yeah.
And to add to what Ashton is saying, we do get reports on Facebook or inbox. People would send their pictures, and we would ask for the pole number.
Yeah.
Again, I can't reiterate that enough. It's always very helpful. It makes us find the location faster. So yeah, we would encourage people to just call our toll-free number, send in the picture on our Facebook page, and it's always good to follow up. What our customer care reps do is they would create something known as a service order with an identification number, and they would share that number with you. So when you call to follow up on the status of your report, you can always refer to that number, and then they would be able to identify the status of that faster and provide a response.
Yeah, that's important.
Very, very much so.
So you have this week of activities, and I'm sure that while a lot of it has to do with public awareness, you have internal practices as well. Talk to us about the standards that you have for your own safety of your staff.
Okay, so safety is a core value at BEL. We are pretty much a safety first company. And just to give you a little bit more information, we have our safety messages throughout the year. It's not just during the safety week, when it's being observed. We have kite flying safety messages, we have Easter messages, bushfire messages, because bushfires does impact our surveys. If a you know, a pole is caught on fire or something like that, we can have a power outage. We have our September safety messages, our Christmas safety messages. So that's played on the different social media platforms. And we have it on the radio, and we do have it for commercials every now and then. In addition to that, we have technical and non-technical training throughout the year. For employees, non-technical training would be, you know, we do yearly CPR and first aid training. That is the Belize Red Cross is the organization that does that for us. And at the end of those training for all our employees, they are they become basic first aid responders. So that's what we have. For the technical training, well, Ashton and Sheena can talk to you a little bit more about our technical training to ensure the safety of our employees.
Let's get technical, Ashton.
So we do a few trainings for our guys, our linemen, and they go through an actual school program, right? It's an apprenticeship program that is a 4-year program, and we basically at the end of that 4 years certify you as a trained lineman to do different type of works. In addition to that training, we do a pole top rescue training. So if any employee is climbing a pole, and for some reason he is injured or of any sort of injury, then someone else can go and rescue that person, right? So we do a pole climbing training as well. That is to ensure that you climb that pole safely with the fall arrest system that we give to them, right? It's a system that whenever you fall or attempt to fall, this will hold you on the pole, right? It will choke the pole and leave you up there hanging without slipping down the pole and causing any major injury. We do a aerial device training for us to operate the bucket trucks that we use. That training basically gives you the understanding of how the bucket truck works and also the safety gears that goes along with that training. And then we do the bucket truck rescue training, right? That is if anyone is trapped in the air with the bucket truck, they can safely come down without causing any injury.
We also do the standard protection code and grounding and bonding theory trainings for our employees.
What does that mean?
It teaches them how to properly, when there's planned works and they need to install the grounds to ensure that the area that they're working is safe and de-energized and dead, how to install the grounds properly to ensure that you're safe while working within that area.
So to add to Sheena, we ourselves have a protocol that we follow when we work on these lines, and we go through this training every year, right? So it's almost cemented in our daily routine to practice safety. So when we do these type of training, the SPC training, it's a language that we speak to one another to know that we're safe on the line.
Cool.
Right, and the equipment that we install is to ensure that we're in additionally safe. Right, our grounds are installed on the ground and bonded, right, and connected to the ground. So if any electricity would pass through that line, it would be diverted to the ground instead of endangering us as an employee.
And one of the things that, and I must say excellent work by BL, one of the things that giving you the opportunity at this particular point to address, you know, like you mentioned, Sheena, on the radio you'll hear BL will be doing maintenance work and they highlight an amount of area. At the same time, BL is bombarded with negativity because electricity is not on in that particular area at that particular time. So this is your opportunity to explain to people the reason why we carry out maintenance work at BL.
AKA the reason we don't have electricity.
You don't have electricity.
Yeah, okay, so, all right, so normally when you have, like, for instance, a vegetation outage, right? A tree grows in the line, similar that we're talking about, right? The customer probably lost control of maintaining his own tree. Tree went into the line. It caused a permanent an outage, right? our guys are based normally in Belize City, right? So if we have to disperse them to the outer exterior of Belize City, it takes some time to get there. So having an planned outage is normally a longer process than having a planned outage, right? So when we do maintenance work, it's normally, well, usually to avoid having a major outage like that,
Yeah.
right? And it's organized. So when we address one issue, if we're taking down an area, then we're going to address every single problem in that area so that we don't have any extended outage.
It's a preventative measure that we do in order to help minimize unplanned outage.
Yeah.
And just to clarify a little bit, there's two types of outages. We have planned outages, which are the maintenance.
Yeah.
For example, vegetation hazards. We see there's a tree growing into our power lines. We need to manage that safely, so we need to cut power. Planned outage to expand areas. The areas are growing at a larger amount, or faster, than the safe source of power supply for those houses. So we need to expand or give more power, if I'm correct, right? We need to
Upgrade.
upgrade, that's the word. We need to
Upgrade.
upgrade. So
Yeah.
we would have to cut off power supply so that our crews can work on the line safely, and so that the houses, there's no interference or damages to the houses, right? Also, so those are planned outages. Unplanned outages occur outside of the company's control, and they can happen at any time. We try to mitigate this by doing our vegetation management and trying to, if there's a planned outage, try to work on everything that we foresee might become an unplanned outage. So when unplanned outages occur, those would be, like I said, trees grow, just a tree falling, or there's a rainy season,
Vehicle accident.
or a vehicle accident, someone crashes
Into a pool.
a utility pool. So we just want viewers to understand that for the planned outages, we would be able to tell you in advance that these are the areas that will be affected, and this is why. For unplanned outages, it happens outside of our control, and we need to, safely manage how we restore power supply back.
You have to locate the source first, and then afterwards go address it.
Yes, yeah,
And we
then
also
address
have
it,
some emergency situations as well, where there was something that may have been, just something that comes out of the blue, and we would have to deal with that situation before it becomes something unmanageable. So those would be emergencies, and we would try to inform the customers who would be affected as soon as possible.
So nobody likes not having power. Nobody likes when there's an outage, I should say.
when it's hot.
But what are some of the main reasons that you find that we have the unplanned outages? Is it merely the vegetation issue?
It varies.
It varies.
Weather, lightning storms. We have system in place to protect it, but there is only so much one can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially in PG that has some
What?
lightning storms.
Yeah.
One of the things that which I think would be very good, especially for viewers to understand, when you're changing out certain equipment that is actually on pole, and the duration, because they would say, light no come on yet, it hot. So like for instance, a good example, changing out a transformer on a lamp post. How long does that take to change?
To be honest, it depends on the type of transformer. There's various sizes. Some of them we use our internal equipment to change. Others we need to get a crane to change. So the hours are different. But if it's just changing a transformer, then it's more, I would say like an hour and a half, or maybe even an hour. But it's more of a logistical issue than anything, because you have to go pick up the transformer and then go to site. And then we have safety procedures that we have to follow, the same communication that we spoke about. So we have protocol that we need to follow, and thereafter we would change the transformer. So the time might extend a bit from there, but it's not a long process for something like that.
Now you know.
All right. So let's just close off with what your main message during this particular Public Awareness Week is to your customers.
So our main message is pretty much, we have the experts at Belize Electricity Limited to advise customers, advise the public on best safety practices as it relates to our power line and our service. Building encroachments is one of a prevalent life-threatening situation that we've encountered, and we want viewers to know, if you're thinking of building, come in to BEL, have the conversation with us, let us guide you on how to safely construct your house so that it does not so that it is not near our power lines, or there's a situation where it might be away from our power line, but the veranda or the window or some object can come in contact with our high voltage power lines and cause a life-threatening, fatal situation.
Yes.
Also with vegetation, you know, another serious message that we want to get out there, to be safe, don't plant near the power lines. It will become a danger. It will impact our service. It may cause power outages. If you have trees that are already near our power lines, contact us at our toll-free number 0800 235 2273. We have the experts who would know how to address trimming or cutting these trees that are growing into our power lines.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in and sharing all the safety tips that we need to take into consideration. And best of luck with the rest of your activities.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking to the Belize Home Caregivers Association. So stay tuned.